Well, it's been a couple weeks. I think I left off with the Tilta Hydra here, talking about building it out for a cinema bike rig for an upcoming shoot. That shoot's over with and it went great. Unfortunately, my version of the bike did not work out. There was a kind of a bike battle going on between me and my friend Dustin Tolman and I to see who could solve the problem of mounting a camera up to the back of a bike and getting beautiful footage. Mine was plagued with too much micro vibration, and that's because I hedged my bet on the use of the Tilta Hydra Alien Arm. The vibration isolator on the arm was just too stiff. Given the RS2 and what the RS2's payload is, which is your typical mirrorless or small cinema camera like the Komodo, even that was not enough weight on the vibration isolator to make use of how stiff those isolators are. These little things. So these are just too rigid. I imagine that the vibration isolator section of the arm is probably best suited for a Ronin 2 and the kind of payloads that carries. I almost think that maybe there was a typo somewhere along the line that nobody caught as they were designing this for the R2, not the RS2. But, you know, that's complete conjecture. That's just a random guess. So where I got held up was trying to re-engineer the vibration isolator. This is a top mounted configuration, as these springs don't work because of the bolts holding that fast. It doesn't extend, it only compresses. But we ran out of time. Had to do the shoot. Didn't have enough time to work that out. I'm gonna come back to that, and I'm probably just going to completely fabricate a new isolator that bolts into the system because we have these proprietary nuts here. I'm going to have to come up with, I don't know if we can see it on camera, but there is this portion in which this threaded bit comes in. So I'm going to redesign these plates to have the smaller, more modular and adjustable cables. Hopefully that works out. But about the Hydra here, not all was lost. It didn't work out for the bike rig. Namely, I think besides the weight issues that I mentioned, we're talking about putting this on a bike, a hardtail bicycle, cargo bicycle that doesn't have any suspension. This Hydra Alien Arm is a car mounting system. So I imagine that when they designed it, they expected that most micro vibrations were going to be handled by the suspension of the vehicle, right? As you're driving down the street, not as much. There's a lot of things in place to mitigate the amount of road noise that's coming through. So this doesn't actually have to bear the full brunt because you have the car's suspension sorting most of the vibration and movement out, which is why my friend Dustin's rig worked out. So his bike used the Kessler Killshock designed for the Rad Power Bike, and then he used a wooden camera L bracket, put that on top, and then on that bracket used a Cine Gears arm then to hold the RS2. So that Cine Gears arm also has its own vibration isolator, which is modular, that he was able to pull several of the coils out to soften it up. So the Kessler took out all the large movements, all the large vibration and bouncing around. The arm stabilized the Z, and then you had all the micro vibrations sorted out by that vibration isolator. His footage came out buttery smooth. Here's a sample of that working. So you can see that that worked out better. It's a lot better than my system, which looked like this. In the end, we got the shots done. But then, you know, I thought that my use for the Alien Arm was done and that I'd probably be setting it back. But then I have a friend who is a car broker who called me up to do a video for a 2016 Porsche Boxster Spider. Gorgeous car. And I figured that that would be a good time to test what this can do shooting car to car. Mounting this on my X5, which is pretty fancy and has adjustable suspension, so riding around with it in its softest setting with this in place, using my Komodo. And then, that's airplane mode, that. And then right about then, I got in touch with my friend Daniel Hurst over at Via Films, and he had an opening in his schedule, so he brought out his Porsche Cayenne arm car so that we could do a test. We were coming out to shoot the car and really just to fill in a day of, you know, practicing on a closed track. But it was pretty good about telling you what you get out of using a system like this compared to a full-blown cinema arm car. So granted, this doesn't do nearly as much as what an arm car can do, right? Because an arm car can create a bunch of dynamic shots, right? It's a crane on a car driving around with a full fizz setup on a cinema camera, whereas this is just a camera basically in a locked position, even though it's on a gimbal. They can get singular shots and you have to reset when you want different angles and whatnot. But the results were pretty good. I was still getting the same kind of micro vibrations that I was getting on the bike, but not nearly as bad. The most problematic bit was really the whole camera and gimbal rocking back and forth. So I did have to shoot at a little higher shutter speed so that when I brought the footage into my editor, I could stabilize it in post without there being that, you know, that blur that happens when stabilized footage was shot at a lower shutter speed. And then that footage then, if I was going to take it a bit further, I could add the motion blur back in post. So unfortunately, with this, I can't imagine being able to shoot, you know, like shoot 180 or dragging the shutter whatsoever, unless I was okay with the amount of movement that's going to be introduced. So how'd it do? It did okay. Let me show you a little bit of footage from the day. It's been over a week ago now. So that was an amazing day. Right, as a car nerd, just being able to be on a track, closed track that we had to ourselves with a car like that just to goof around. And then for me to be having this with my Komodo, that's pretty rad. But then really just turned up a notch to have an arm car on the track at the same time. And then just a little bit more, we had a drone. So my friend Kenji Sugahara of A-Cam Aerials was there. He was chasing us around with his FPV drone. I'm throwing a little bit of that footage right here. Kenji has gotten really good with his FPV drone in a very short period of time. I am a little jealous because I've not gotten, I think we've had him about the same amount of time, and clearly he's gotten a lot better with it than I have. You gotta hit him up, you gotta follow him, check out his work. Here he is, chasing me around. This is me in the X5 trying to go as fast as I possibly can around the track, basically seeing if I could shake this thing off. Unfortunately, I was in a bit of a hurry and I didn't have time to put the retention strap on, but none of the suction cups came loose whatsoever. They have little indicators on them to see if they're losing suction, you know, and you have to go back and pump them up a little bit more. at the end of the 2-hour shoot, they were all exactly where they were when I started. Now that is a bit of a gamble. I'm a bit of a safety nut, but I knew that we were on a closed track, and I let the other people on set know what I was doing. And then I only drove in a position where I was behind anybody in case the camera came off. It wasn't a hazard to anybody else but my own vehicle. So if there were any losses to be taken, I was going to be the one having to take them. Other than that, so we had those 2 shoots. I did a little bit more construction documentation, just wrapped on a project. Here's a choice little bit from that. So this is one thing that I do fairly frequently because I'm using pre-programmed flight paths. I'm flying the exact same path every single month that I come out, or quarterly, depending on the project. And so I have these bits of footage that I can just crossfade into one another. Normally I have to do a bit of tweaking and zooming in and, getting them to line up a little bit better. It's never perfect because the drone doesn't actually shoot the exact same thing every time. There's always a bit of a difference. There'll be a little degree shift in the camera angle, up, down. The altitude will be off a little bit. Always something that needs to be sorted out. But I think on this one, these bits came out pretty good. And then also I've been wanting to do a series of interviews with my artist friends, really just to talk about what art does to feed them. Not literally, but there is a compulsion amongst artists to make things. It is akin to needing to breathe and eat, as cliche as that may sound, but artists need to make. And so I really wanted to get down to that, especially during a time where I think people are having a harder go. It can really be those kind of things that keeps people pushing through even when times are rough. So I started it out with my friend Andrew Newell. He makes work out of reclaimed objects. So, it's just this assemblage of stuff that other people have cast off, and he creates these miniature dystopian sci-fi. I shouldn't try to describe it. I should just show you. We're gonna be shooting a little bit more here pretty soon. Amazing work, amazing guy. And I'm going to be moving on to several other artists that I'm friends with. It's just a matter of getting things on the schedule, along with some people that I guess you wouldn't say as artists, because we think of an artist, as a painter or a sculptor, but art is so much more than that. Art is the compulsion to create. I've got a friend, Justin McDonald, Nubworks. A lot of you know him from his work that he does on cars, but he's gotten a new mill at his house. He's got a new CNC machine, and he's making custom parts, but that guy just keeps making. It's the same thing. It is still that desire to create and make, that drive. And I'm hoping that the series can really get down to that and talk about that and kind of open up people's perspectives on what they see as being art. Not just painting, not just sculpting. What other footage do I have to show you? I also met up with my friend John Jackley, just got an Inspire 2. And as you know, I did a long-term review, so I'm kind of an old salt as far as an Inspire 2 goes, so I helped him set up and get his gimbal settings dialed in and his expo curves and whatnot. And then as soon as he got up in the air like a jackass, then I started terrorizing him with my FPV drone. Here's me messing with him right here. Just buzzing by him, scaring the old guy in the sky. Such a punk ass. So that's it. I haven't been able to make these videos because I've been busy doing all this other stuff. I expect that I'm going to continue to be busy. I've gotten several other pings from people about working on projects. I'm very excited to start finally picking back up well, we're still in the pandemic, but now that things are opening up and people are vaccinated, my phone is starting to ring more, which I'm so very happy for. It was a long year of not doing many things. I was pretty much locked into just doing my construction work and picking up a random thing here or there, doing a car for my friend Brian Odell at Bridge City Motors. Pretty much kept me creatively alive for a year. It was my only creative outlet other than just goofing off, and then starting this YouTube channel, of course. So having that other work come back in is a breath of fresh air. So there we are. End of the video. I talked a whole bunch. Let's cut it. Cut it. I didn't even open the case. Why is this case here? Whoop.